Hello, PascoMath grade 7 teachers. Today we're going to look at 7.NS.1.1. We're going to unpack the standard, look at some things that the teacher should be doing in the classroom as well as the students, and then look at some common misconceptions and how to address those. So let's get started. 7.NS.1.1 is a large standard, and so we're going to break it up into 4 separate shorter videos. So the standard reads, apply and extend previous understandings of addition and subtraction to add and subtract rational numbers. Represent addition and subtraction on the horizontal or vertical number line diagram. Specifically, we're going to look at, in this video, describe situations in which opposite quantities combine to make zero. For example, a hydrogen atom has zero charge because its two constituents are oppositely charged. So to unpack that part of the standard a little bit, part A, students are going to use real-world situations that model opposite quantities to make zero. Examples include temperature, elevation above and below sea level, owing money or earning money, so on. Since the standard does talk about describing situations in which opposite quantities combine to make zero, we need to provide opportunities for students to talk about positive and negatives in the real world. Here, we can also provide students with two-color counters and just challenge them to make zero as multiple ways as they can. So if we just had some two-color chips, provide opportunities for students to show that if we have a positive, and so yellow being positive, red being negative, we'd probably have to define that first, that positive one and negative one combine to make a zero. And then we can also model, well, if we have a positive 2, well, then we need negative 2 to make a zero. And have students create as many different representations as they can of zeros. We also want them to model on a number line how a certain number of moves in a positive direction from 0 combined with the same number of moves in the opposite direction make a 0. And so if we look at that like on the number line, let me zoom in here. So if we start, let's say, at 0, and we make 3 moves, so that's a plus 3. But then if we make the same amount of moves backwards, so 1, 2, 3, we end up back at 0. And so we can also start, maybe use some examples in which we start and make, maybe let's go 4 moves this time. So 4 moves this way, went 4 that way. But then we followed up with 4 moves, and we still end up back at 0. So 0 is the key number in this standard. We also want to challenge students to write story problems where opposites make 0, and provide students with opportunities to write to clarify their understanding of the concept of making 0. So again, we're going for that conceptual understanding of what making a 0 really means. When looking at what the students should be doing, they need to consider real-world examples in terms of positive and negatives, such as 30 degrees below 0 is negative 30 degrees. They also need to represent multiple zeros by combining the same number of positives and negative counters, like I showed you with the teacher part. Students should be modeling the number line, how a certain number of moves in the positive direction from 0 combined with the same number of moves in the negative direction ends up at 0 on the number line. And then model positive and negative by combining to make a 0 in real world situations. And then really communicate. So we're looking at math practice 3 again, that they need to communicate understanding of positive, negative, and 0, orally and in writing. As for addressing misconceptions, many students will understand that one positive, one negative make a 0, but then they have trouble generalizing this, that it's true for all equal amounts of positives and negatives. And so again, just make sure to use some context, and maybe with the counters, go back to the counters and start with one positive and one negative. And as soon as the student establishes that that's a 0, just add another 0 pair to that first and repeat till that the concepts develop. So we'd start with a positive 1 and a negative 1 and show how those make a 0. and then we can go to +2, -2, +3, -3, +4, -4. Have the student maybe record it with, as long as when they're going with their two color counters, um, their work, and so they can maybe look for some patterns of what's happening. That's it for 7NS11 Part A. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me or your regional specialist, and thank you for making PascoMath more awesome.